I want to show you that. It's pretty sweet. Not a lot of shows have that. I have that. So our good friend Jackson Hinkle's with us, ladies and gentlemen, from The Dive with Jackson Hinkle. Recently kicked off of another platform. So the guy's really making things happen. He got kicked off Patreon recently. Hey, Jackson, how are you?
Good. How's it going?
Good. You are the founder of the independent media outlet, The Dive, and the host of The Dive with Jackson Hinkle. You've been permanently banned from YouTube for alleged Ukraine misinformation, but his Twitter account recently surpassed 2.6 million followers. Look at that. And now he can add his resume that he's been publicly smeared in the newspaper of record, the New York Times. That's what we're here to talk about today. But before we get to that, I wanted to play this. You went back on the Turtle in the Hair show, and I think maybe they saw our coverage of it because, but here they couldn't help but slobber over you. Watch this.
You've changed your image a bit, haven't you?
Have you?
You've beefed up or something. You look different.
Have you been working out?
You've got a beard. Something's happened. You filled out a bit.
You guys seem to be very obsessed with my looks.
We are.
Well, isn't everybody?
You're gorgeous.
And I'd be quite happy about that, you know.
You're gorgeous. He just said it. He couldn't keep it in. You're gorgeous. You've been working out. You're filled out. Oh my God, you're gorgeous. Everybody's.
They're like, yeah, we're going to have you on to discuss the genocide, be on at 5 p.m. And then I come on and it's that. I'm like, what is this?
They couldn't believe. Well, I think you wore a suit coat the last time you went on. This time, you just wore on a regular shirt. You're just showing off the pecs and the big shoulders. And it's so funny. I want to listen to it again.
You've changed your image a bit, haven't you?
Have you?
You've beefed up or something. You look different.
Have you been working out?
You've got a beard. Something's happened. You filled out a bit.
Oh, someone's going to flavor
You guys
camp.
seem to be very obsessed with my looks.
We are.
Well, isn't everybody?
Gorgeous.
And I'd be quite happy about that, you know. As probably the two best looking guys
We are a bit vain.
on TV. We thought we'd just give you a compliment, didn't we?
Yeah.
Now, what is this show called again? The Walrus and the Carpenter?
I didn't even know what to say. It was so off-putting. I didn't even know what to say.
They saw us making jokes from last time.
Yes.
I would bet anything.
I bet you that's what it was.
And that's why they're playing that up, because we went pretty ham on them.
Yeah.
Trying to ditty you into a special usher camp.
So anyway, they've invited me on the show. I haven't. I declined.
You don't want to be on the Squid and the Whale?
I don't know what would that be. What would I get anything out of that? I don't know. I don't think so. So maybe it would be fun.
Well, now that it's obviously a genocide, they've probably adjusted their tack a bit. You know, they run into a court. Israel goes to. They have a lawyer.
They have a lawyer.
What court would that be?
Just like you remember when George Bush had a lawyer say it was okay to torture.
Antonio Gonzalez.
You find a lawyer that says it's okay.
Yeah, we Sachi did a sketch with it where
it was a guy named Lou or Wu or something. They also got
I thought it
besides
was Antonio Gonzalez.
he was the
Alberto Gonzalez, not Antonio.
He was the attorney general, I think, at the time. But they got this other guy, Wu or Lou. He was Asian, and they got him. He was their lawyer that okayed it. But anyway, the reason why you're on, Jackson, is because you made it, baby. The New York Times. First of all, who cares what they say about you when that's the picture they use?
No kidding.
That is unbelievable. They use that. I mean, continuing the theme from the video we just showed. You're gorgeous. He's gorgeous.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the picture they use. You look up, Jesus. I don't care what. Remember when they smeared me as the head of the dirtbag left?
Yeah.
They used a paw. I was like, I don't care what they say. Look how good I look.
The headshot didn't look like a dirtbag.
No.
Wait, look at the stupid headline.
So they say riding rage over Israel to online prominence. Is that bad? I can't tell from the headline.
So? What is? I don't understand the.
And they say Jackson Hinkle's incendiary First of all, Jackson Hinkle's incendiary commentary has generated over 2 million new followers on Twitter since October, a surge that some researchers say is aided by inauthentic accounts. By the way, none of those things are newsworthy. And by the way, if Jackson Hinkle looked like Michael Rappaport, this article wouldn't even exist.
No, somebody got boned up over there.
Yeah, the headline should be 2 writers at the New York Times want to fuck Jackson Hinkle. Subheading, that bad boy. Gorgeous. He's filled out a little,
if
isn't
you just replace how we want to fuck Jackson with that picture, it works obviously better.
Works better.
Incendiary.
I'd like it said, does that mean that he's really hot? More than hot. He's flaming.
They're calling him gay.
Wait a minute, are they calling him gay? Let's see. So this was the New York Times idea of a smear piece on Jackson Hinkle. That is not the picture I would use for a smear piece.
Is it a smear piece? I can't tell from
I thought I looked kind of evil, and the other pictures I'm smiling. They didn't choose I look kind of evil in that picture, I think. It could have been worse.
That's how they like you. They like you to scowl.
Well, here's some of the stuff they say. Jackson Hinkle has cultivated an online persona so incendiary, flaming,
like a plate of fajitas coming through,
that he has been kicked off YouTube, Twitch, and Instagram. That's like a badge of honor.
Too hot for YouTube.
Too hot for YouTube. He rages on. That's what Anna Kasparian tried to do when she was trying to smear me on Twitter.
What?
That AOC shouldn't have to listen to my rage-filled rants. Well, she doesn't.
She doesn't have to listen to Anna's now that Anna discovered crime is bad.
Now that Anna has discovered crime is bad.
She's discovered she doesn't like crime after all.
And men aren't women.
What if she finds out the CIA is not good?
They had. Remember when she went off? She went, wait till she finds out the CIA isn't good.
Oh, they're not even bad. They're stupid.
He rages on Undaunted, even energized. He produces a regular podcast on Rumble, a website popular with many prominent conservatives.
Ew.
Oh, ew. He writes dozens of posts a day on Twitter, where his following has surged to 2.5 million from 417,000 in the 6 months since October 7th, the day Hamas fighters mounted their assault on Israel. Oh, wow. We here at the New York Times call him the White Tupac because of his thug ways.
He's only 24, this kid.
Along the way, he has employed false or misleading. By the way, they're trying to make it look like. So look, he's putting out a lot of content like that. How is that bad? Like
these people watch it, and we heard some of them aren't even real. I mean, we're not bots, and we're boosting him, but.
Listen to how they try to spin this as he rages he rages bad.
You think after you got kicked off of Instagram, you learned your goddamn lesson.
You'd become nicer. He writes dozens of posts a day on Twitter where it's the day Hamas. So it's like, are they trying to now say you're kind of a terrorist or something like that? I don't know what they're saying. Here's the next thing. Along the way, he has employed false or misleading content. They never say what it is, by the way.
Yeah, what was it?
They never say what it is. He's promoted manipulated images and made comments that watchdog organizations have denounced as anti-Semitic.
Fuck you.
You mean
watchdog? Fuck
you. You mean like the Anti-Defamation League, which turns out the Anti-Defamation League, their job is to defame other people.
Well, except Azov. They said
irony.
They're good.
Yeah.
ADL, Azov Battalion, not Nazis
Not
anymore.
Nazis.
That reliable watchdog group.
He calls himself an American patriot. Do you call yourself? He does call himself. And he calls himself an American patriot, even as he praises American adversaries, including Vladimir Putin, Xi Jinping, and Anatoliy Khomeini. We both slid off our chair, and one of us is a dude. So I just want to show. So when they point the finger, again, whenever you point the finger, you have 3 fingers pointing back at you, and that's the New York Times saying that that Jackson Hinkle has employed false or misleading content. Here's the front page of the New York Times. Front page. Screams without words how Hamas weaponized sexual violence on October 7th. Completely made up. So made up, we even debunked it here at this show. We don't need evidence. That's a direct quote from one of the people who wrote that article. That fake article about rape.
Anat Schwartz, who it turned out was not telling the truth.
So, breaking. Gal Abduba's sister denies rape claims in New York Times article and says New York Times manipulated the family. So the exact thing that they're accusing Jackson of, they put on their front page.
Right.
Front page.
People still believe it, too, to this day.
And people still believe that front page story.
And that's what I told them. Of course, they're never going to print that. But, you know, the dupe that was interviewing me, we talked for like an hour. And he's like, so what do you think about these posts? You said this photo was from Gaza and it's actually from Syria. I'm like, look, you know, accidents happen. There's no shortage of dead bodies in Gaza that can be posted online right now. But what about you guys lying about 40 beheaded babies, lying about sexual violence, lying about you know, decades worth of history going back to 1948.
WMDs? How about
and they never post that.
And what did he say to that? Did he respond?
Oh, you know, I'm just concerned about, you know, you're very prominent online. You've gained all these new followers. You know,
he's concerned.
Yeah.
So
oh, fuck. Is it that with the guy? What's his name? Stephen something.
Stephen Lee Myers.
So we're going to show him.
Yeah.
So the Screams Without Words New York Times article was co-authored by Anat Schwartz about mass rape that has been systematically debunked by many. How did Anat, who has no journalism experience, and her 24-year-old co-author Adam Sella, nephew by marriage, come to lead a front page investigation on the New York Times? That seems like a much bigger scandal than anything some rando guy on Twitter could ever pull off. But nope. And by the way, just from today, New York Times probe ends, leaks, and Gaza rebellion unveiled. You know what they did? The New York Times concluded its internal investigation into a leak of a memo, but that instructed journalists to avoid using terms like genocide or ethnic cleansing and occupied territory in their coverage of Gaza's war without identifying. And they didn't identify the source of the leak. So that was a memo given to their reporters. Don't say genocide. Don't say ethnic cleansing. Don't say occupied territory. But the guy on Twitter is the guy spreading misinformation. The guy who has a bias. The guy who is raging undaunted. I just want to point out that the biggest liars in the world are the government. The second is the corporate media. That's like the New York Times, the Washington Post, MSNBC, CNN, Fox News. Those are the biggest liars in the world. But they always want to focus on some rando guys because he got popular. Jackson got popular, and we're competition for these people. They went on to say, they're quoting you. Drop a like if you stand with Iran in the face of Israeli terrorism, Jackson wrote last week on Twitter after an Israeli airstrike in Syria killed several Iranian military officials. I'm
the bad guy for saying I stand against terrorism, and then they casually just throw in, because they killed these innocent people in the consulate.
This is again. This is the best thing. You were happy when you saw this, right?
It's a badge of honor.
It certainly is, because they're so bad. They're not even good at smearing you. The people who wrote this, I'll show you their name. What's his name? Stephen what?
Stephen Lee Myers.
Stephen Lee Myers.
And Kelly, or what's her name?
And he needed
Tiffany
help.
Hasu.
He needed help from a lady.
Yeah, she's a misinformation reporter.
Yes,
you know that?
yeah.
Which sounds like she reports misinformation.
That's what it sounds like. A day later, he addressed the Houthi leadership in Yemen over video, praising the group for its attacks on shipping in the Red Sea. Yeah, I would applaud that too. These are all things I think people agree with.
No, a bunch of people think it's crazy that you'll be praising the Houthis.
So I already showed this. Okay. It has all made Mr. Hinkle an online celebrity. At age 24, a Gen Z symbol of the modern internet, a place where authenticity is no longer a necessity. You know where that need for no authenticity started? The New York Times. Front page, two people who aren't even journalists. You get them to write complete fantasy on your front page.
But that's like the thing of, I thought you liked free speech. Oh, we're telling a lie about you. You don't like it. I thought you like it. That's like a real Don Lemon move.
So here, let me read this again. A Gen Z symbol of the modern internet, a place where authenticity is no longer a necessity, as if the New York Times is. Every lie that's ever been printed in the world about wars starts at the New York Times. And
wouldn't they be doing better if it was like that?
Yes. And outrage offers attention and even some financial reward. You mean like this article you're doing on him to generate outrage at a guy who became popular on social media so you guys can sell newspapers? That's exactly what they're doing. I'm sorry. Did they give these newspapers away that day for free?
No, they in this article attacked me for having my supporters donate to my show on Twitter subscriptions. And I thought it was ironic because to actually read this article, there was a paywall and I had to pay like $3 to read the article.
Oh, I was trying to look at the article, and I wasn't going to pay. So I just said, fuck it, I don't need to know. I already know Jackson's got great hair. I don't need to hear a fucking article about it.
They go on to say his sudden rise may stem from more than good luck. No, it can come to because he's good on social media. He knows how to. Two Israeli research companies that I'm sure are credible and not biased at all.
I already now don't believe anything bad about you.
Two Israeli research companies that specialize in online threats and that have focused on what they consider disinformation related to the war in Gaza. You mean like not calling it a genocide or ethnic cleansing and never referring to it as occupied terror? Oh, no, that's what the New York Times does. Said that they had identified coordinated and possibly state-sponsored networks of bots. The fact that they would print that. They have no proof. It's just a possibility.
Look at the hedging language all the way through.
All the way through
they
this.
They didn't even go, like, just cut to, like, two research companies. Don't say they're Israeli. That takes away from the validity of what you're saying already. Yeah. Then what they consider disinformation? Consider my balls in your mouth.
I didn't think that Jackson was this accurate until this article, actually.
Yeah, I thought you were a piece of shit until this. Now I know you're on the level.
Now he's really doing some good. He's doing some good work. If they have to say he's possibly state-sponsored networks of bots or inauthentic accounts that were amplifying Mr. Hinkle's provocative brew of political views. China, Russia, and other foreign actors are known to use such tactics to achieve their. Look at the slimy innuendo. This makes the New York Times look. Anybody reading this who isn't a mental defective was going to be drawn.
There's no such thing as that.
There's no such thing. You're right.
I don't know if we should even be reading it now, but I'm not. I'm not a.
I like how they put in. So Russia and China and other foreign actors have included efforts to influence this fall's presidential election. You mean not like Israel and AIPAC? They don't do that. Really?
MSNBC warned me that AIPAC was going too far with that, by the way. This was funny. All your anger you wrote about Israel, MSNBC's riding it now.
Now
and Nancy Pelosi, right? Because they bombed her friend at the...
That's right.
What was it? The cook kitchen?
The kitchen.
The World Kitchen?
Yeah.
They're all saying the thing you're saying. Oh, how about you that Russia's doing fine? You got kicked off for saying. What'd you get kicked off?
The crazy thing was on the front page of the New York Times this day. It was the day after O.J. Simpson had passed, and the number one story wasn't even O.J. Simpson. It was that Israel was bombing a shelter, like one of the refugee camps in Gaza. And I'm like, I'm like, this is crazy. This is the front page. Then you flip to page 17, and they're smearing me for defending the people that are getting bombed on page 1.
I wonder who gave them the order, right? So this happened. Like Dave Weigel put me in a piece and tried to smear me over Seth Rich that I covered that story for the Washington Post, and someone ordered him to do that. So somebody ordered these two writers to write the story on you.
What's Hasabra? What's it called? Hasabra or their American propaganda thing? Hasbra.
Oh, yeah.
Who was just telling me? Somebody was just telling me that they hadn't been funding that for a while because they had to sew in the bag, and so that's why. Because I started getting shit for going on Rogan and mention that crazy lady bringing up Dresden from Israel.
Yes,
and I got a bunch of little twats trying to pick apart things I said and cut it a certain way because they're mad
that you said that.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, I just realized now what the fuck that is. They're trying to now go back, like I said on Rogan. The Israeli officials are like embarrassing immigrant parents that don't know not to use like gay slurs.
Yeah, yes.
So they've been just blathering all this psychotic nonsense. Now all these people got to scramble and make up for what mommy and daddy said that was embarrassing. And that's what I think this is. Of course, you'll be popular from that after people hear these maniacs talk.
Mr. goes on. Mr. Hinkle has also benefited from changes by Twitter's owner, Elon Musk, including the cancellation of policies that once limited toxic content. Again, they don't ever show you any of his toxic content. With the addition of a premium subscription feature, he now charges certain followers $3 a month. How dare you?
$3 a month?
So to read this article, how much did you have to pay?
Bought a copy for $4.
Are you kidding?
No, it was $4 to buy a copy. New York Times.
The absolute, it's comical how bad of a smear job this is. Jackson charges $3 a month. They charge $4 for this fucking one newspaper.
I can't believe the amount of
as they're trying to gin up outrage over people on social media. They're doing the exact thing they're claiming that Jackson Hinkle's doing. You charge $3 for what he calls extra cool stuff, including behind the scenes videos and random thoughts. I wonder how many more subscribers you got from this article. $3. I'd like to see some extra cool stuff.
Oh yeah, right.
I'd like to see some behind the scenes videos.
People that hate you would pay $3. That's a better deal. That hating the New York Times, I do. I would not pay $4 to read a nice article about myself. But people that hate your guts, they'll pay that $3.
Listen to how they use the words they use, the sleazy words. They go, Twitter allows him to pocket up to 97% of the. He pockets it? You mean he puts it in his pocket? What? He's supposed to give that money away to charity.
But up to 97%. Wait, X is not even taking the huge chunk that YouTube takes and all these other piece of shit companies take?
Right. And Mr. Hinkle has told subscribers that helps him continue exposing the deep state.
Good.
That's good. I know. Imran Ahmed, the head of the Center for Countering Digital Hate, who is a fucking fraud.
Yeah.
Don't even have to look up who he is. Anybody who is the head of a Center for Countering Digital Hate is a fucking tool of a billionaire somewhere and is pushing establishment propaganda. That's who that guy is. Do you know who that guy is, by the way, Jackson?
No.
I analog hate him. Never mind digital, I never heard of him, but in real life, I hate him.
So a research organization said Mr. Hinkle was part of a sort of new cadre of people who exploit the algorithm's insatiable desire for highly contentious content to benefit themselves economically.
The press? That's not new.
You mean like the newspaper?
Journalism?
It's called journalism.
A new cadre.
It's this whole new thing. The
insatiable desire for contentious content.
This whole new thing that Jackson has just invented.
What are you, a rapper? What is this?
In a new report, the center documented a staggering rise in followers for 10 prominent accounts on Twitter that spread anti-Semitic content since the start of the war between Israel and Hamas. Now, anti-Semitic, according to those organizations, is just telling the truth about what's happening. And telling the truth about what Zionism is.
Can you
That's
stop
all.
Being anti-Semitic, please.
Mr. Hinkle was at the top by far. Again, this is not a smear. It's sort of a sick industry. You mean the newspaper game?
Not Pornhub.
Not Pornhub.
Or OnlyFans.
No.
Where kids are filming their mother. I swear to God, that's a thing. A kid films his mom on OnlyFans. Well, he's in his 20s. Don't make it that much better. But this is the sick industry. You're just saying things.
It's not the people pushing pro-war lies, the people debunking them. That's the sick industry of creators on platforms who benefit from contention. Mr. Ahmed said the sort of car crash nature of how people react to hate.
I hate that Mr. Ahmed is not in a car crash right now. That's what I hate.
Mr. Hinkle, for his part, seems to relish the limelight.
What a weirdo. What the fuck am I reading? He seems to love it. Making money and saying things and becoming popular. Oh my God.
To illustrate a post about the Gaza conflict, he used a stylized cartoon of himself dressed in military gear with a rifle in front of a fireball. You want to see it? This is supposed to be a smear piece. His profile on Twitter and other platforms includes a doctored image of his bloodied face surrounded by a ring of pistols. I couldn't find that picture.
Where's the doctored? Oh, it wasn't a real picture.
No, because this is the one that's up now. It's just
on my Twitter banner. If you go to my profile, it's the photo from The Matrix with like.
It was doctored. What do you mean doctored? Like, were you putting it out as if you had been in that gunfight to? A real Mexican
like I was in the
standoff?
movie or something, I guess. I guess I doctored myself into the Matrix.
Hey, this is doctored.
Mr. Hinkle solicits donations and sells merchandise
to support his independent. Look at the quotes.
To support his independent journalism on platforms. Well, that's exactly. Why do they put it in quotes? First of all, that's the same smear they used at me. That Sean guy used on me. Jimmy Dore sells T-shirts. You mean like every fucking show on YouTube in the world?
You know, if you don't show your goddamn face, by the way, in your thing, go fuck yourself.
I agree with you.
Hey, guess who sells T-shirts and bags and merchandise?
Can I guess?
The New York Times.
Oh, that's
I would buy that. I mean, I'd rather have it. Even if you had like an NPR tote bag that could have some ironic, humorous value. But what New York Times merchandise? If you don't work there, why would you have that?
So what's interesting is they said that he does this on platforms like Patreon, having already been barred from PayPal and Venmo. Well, this was a signal to Patreon to ban him, and they did.
Oh,
yep.
Thank God.
Banned me within 24 hours, and I sent a very nasty text to Stephen Lee Myers after that one.
And did he respond?
Of course not. He's a coward.
In the interview, Mr. Hinkle emphasized that he did not accept any payments from foreign governments, but he spoke unapologetically about his support for and from often hostile foreign powers. Hostile to who? He visited Russia and China this year at the invitation of, you know who's hostile to Russia and China? NATO. Guess who's not hostile to American people? Russia and China.
Hey, you know who's hostile to American people? Israel, it turns out.
Israel, yes. He visited Russia and China this year at the invitation of organizations close to the governments, dining with Russia's foreign minister and appearing on state-controlled television networks. Well, why don't you go on billionaire-controlled television networks?
What are you, independent media?
I think they appreciate support wherever they can get it, he said.
Why don't you take some AIPAC money?
Yeah. Today, he says he is a Stalinist and a Maoist who was expelled from the Communist Party of the United States. Roberta Wood, a party leader in Chicago, said that Jackson subscribed to the newsletter, but had never joined the party and did not reflect its values.
You're not even a real communist? You piece of shit.
So he's not even a real communist, according to the New York Times. He once supported Bernie Sanders, but now praises former President Donald J. Trump.
Where's your authenticity?
He wrote last year, quote, an American patriot, God-fearing, pro-family, Marxist-Leninist, pro-Palestine, Russia and China, anti-deep state, anti-imperialist, anti-woke, pro-growth, anti-monopoly, pro-gun, pro-fossil fuel. Again, this is supposed to be a smear piece. These are all things this had to get you more followers. I
never knew my shit post would be published in the New York Times, but here we are.
This is awesome. An international pivot. This is the subhead. An international pivot. As Mr. Hinkle's focus settled on international affairs, his audiences grew. chagrin. He supported authoritarian leaders like Bashar al-Assad. You mean the guy who was being the CIA tried to overthrow in an illegal war, that the CIA, the United States military, got in bed with ISIS and Al-Qaeda to try to overthrow?
Hey,
you mean that Bashar al-Assad?
You know who else calls Assad a hero? All the Syrians I've ever met in my life.
Like
6 or 7. Every single one of them. Every single one of them.
When Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022, he embraced Mr. Putin's rationale for the conflict. You know why? Because it made sense.
I embrace that as well, that rationale.
I embrace that rationale as well. Mr. Hinkle has become a merchant of rage.
Oh, what if you sold missiles and drones? That would make you a better person.
Did you okay the cluster bombs that the United States is now sending? No, you didn't. That kind of rage. Okay. Mr. Hinkle has become a merchant of rage, said Pekka Kalabili, who researches social media and disinformation at Tampere University in Finland.
Oh, that's why she's got an elf name.
No kidding.
Fuck you, Peckahead.
She researches social media and imagine your life.
Wait, we do that. Everyone who goes on does that, who goes on social media.
Everybody who goes
and talks. We're all researching it by looking at it.
That
a university in Finland.
The way he moves on from one thing to another, it seems very opportunistic to me. Oh, but it's not opportunistic to get paid to be a researcher of social media and disinformation, which is not a thing. That's just something you all made up.
Pekka is a mister?
Anybody? Is that? Yeah. Oh, it's a mister.
Pekka is a guy.
Oh, I thought that was a lady name.
Well...
Pick a lot. In the interview, Mr. Hinkle shrugged off the findings of inauthentic support for his account. There's always going to be bots on social media, he said. He acknowledged that he has made mistakes in some posts, but said they weren't intentional, and he argued that the scale of Israel's retaliation in Gaza vindicated his view of the conflict. Of course it does.
What the fuck?
Even Condoleezza Rice advisors are on Jackson's side now.
Democrats are going to his side because they're losing because of this.
That's right.
How's New York Times not on board?
I don't understand this.
Aren't they more worried about Trump?
This is the most counterproductive shit smearing of the New York Times ever did.
They must be getting.
So they must have got money from a Jewish organization to do this.
Probably.
APEC probably gave them money to do this, right?
Because MSNBC's like, you could see who's like, hey, screw you, you're costing us more than we were prepared to give for this.
So there's some Zionist, I wouldn't say Jewish, I would say a Zionist organization, not Jewish. I think if we're going to focus on people who are putting out false information and incorrect Twitter photo, it's not the biggest deal in comparison to the lies that are used to sell a war. Well, at least they put that in.
Do they like you or hate you?
Sounds like they like you now.
I actually didn't read that part. That's interesting.
That's
the first time I saw that.
Really?
Yeah.
So that's a nice quote.
That's a good quote.
Yeah. Mr. Hinkle spoke admiringly of Tucker Carlson.
So do I.
So do I. I mean, the only guy doing real journalism, so much so that he got fired. You don't get fired for lying in corporate journalism. You get fired for telling the truth. And that's why Tucker Carlson got fired. The former Fox News host who has peddled pro-Russian narrative. The words
if I could get paid to do that, I would do it.
Did he pocket any cash for peddling?
97%, I heard.
I would. Oh, my. And Candace Owens, a conservative commentator who left Daily Wire's website last month. Mr. Hinkle, who said he had turned down a job offer from a foreign media outlet that he declined to disclose, compared himself to Mr. Carlson and Ms. Owens. We're all independent, not by choice. You know, of course, I'd be happy if there was any media outlet in the United States that wanted to hire someone like me, he said, but our values don't align, so I don't think that's in my future. This has turned into a glowing puff piece for you. This is unbelievable. By the way, so right underneath this article, this is what's under there. Our coverage of the Israeli-Hamas war. That's right underneath the article. And then they give you all their headlines. Within moments of Israel and its allies shooting down a fusillade of Iranian missiles and drones, many began wondering what the exchange would mean for the war. Click here. Click here. Pay us money and click here. The next thing, the disappearance of death of an Israeli teenager whose body was found in the West Bank. Are they trying to pocket money off the death of a teenager found in the West? They're trying to pocket that money.
How much? What percentage?
They're peddling outrage over this.
They're peddling it out. Well, I don't know what they're peddling about
For months, Western governments have sent weapons to Israel while fending off accusations of abetting war crimes in Gaza. But as an outcry over the civilian death toll mounts, maintaining that balance is becoming... Again, this is the worst smear piece ever. This is what they're agreeing with you. Their newspaper has now come around. It's gotten so horrific in Gaza that the newspaper is agreeing with you, and they're making money off of it.
Yeah, here's a tip to the newspaper. When you write, see how it says right there, rioting rage over Israel. A surge that some researchers say is aided by inauthentic accounts by the online celebrity. As soon as you say some researchers say, that means nothing. You might as well stop doing that. Who would take that seriously?
I guess I was when he was doing the interview, he very, very briefly mentioned these reports that were done by these Israeli firms, and I was like, "Can I see the reports?" And he's like, "Oh, I can't share them yet because I guess it wasn't published yet." So he couldn't show me what they were saying. Yeah,
he had them already, but is he part of making those reports? Why would he have access to that?
It was to be published alongside the story, I guess. So I said, well, that's very odd. I mean, I can't really comment on that if I haven't seen the reports about these alleged bot accounts, right? So the story comes out, and of course they don't link to the report and the article. They just kind of weirdly mention it in a few sentences, but they don't actually add any details about what the report found, the sourcing and methoding of the report. The report looked at 12,000 accounts on Twitter from October of 2023. So this was, months ago. And there were 12,000 pro-Palestine accounts, and they weren't following me. These are just random 12,000 accounts that are on Twitter putting out pro-Palestine stuff. And they said, according to their sources and methods, that 40% of those accounts may have been inauthentic or bots. And they said because of that means that Jackson Hinkle has 40% fake accounts. And I'm like, well, none of that even adds up. But even if you're going to take that argument and credit all of that, doesn't that still mean I have 1.7 million real followers, which is more than all the New York Times journalists combined?
Yes, that is what that means. And speaking of, here's the people who wrote this article. Here's Stephen Lee Myers and Tiffany Hsu.
Yeah, misinformation reporter Tiffany Hsu, which is
misinformation reporter Tiffany
bullshit. And then this guy's a Putin. His whole thing is right about how Putin came.
So you want to know the article this guy wrote today?
Yeah.
So Stephen Lee Myers co-authored this New York Times piece bemoaning the fact that today's ruling will curtail the government's efforts to fight what it deems to be disinformation in his current profile. So what he's on board of surveilling Americans without a warrant.
So he's not a real reporter.
That's what that says.
So he's some puppet.
So he's not a real reporter, but he said in his current profile pic, he's wearing a blue surgical mask.
Nice.
You want to see it? Here it is. That's him.
Nice.
That's him.
Yeah.
Stephen Lee Myers. That's him.
Why even okay, look, if you're the kind of punk who would still wear a mask, especially that mask, he probably hasn't changed it. Why would you ever have had a picture of yourself up with a mask?
With a mask.
At all as your profile? Not
even a good picture.
Like, he on purpose did that at some point. He probably hasn't changed it. But why? What's the point of your profile with you in a mask?
With you in a mask. No one can even see what you look like. You're wearing a mask.
You want to show that you wear a mask, you punk.
That's what that is. That's called virtue signaling.
Well,
anyway, well done, Jackson. That went from a smear piece into a puff piece real quick because it turns out the New York Times agrees with your stance on Gaza now.
I guess so. I don't know. It's still a badge of honor to be attacked by them and stuff. And it's this is just how they operate. They attack truth tellers, and they've come after you. They come after me and stuff. And this is just how they operate.
No doubt. Anybody who the people who still think the New York Times and the Washington Post are real news are. If
they do, they agree with you now. If they do, they agree with Jackson now. They're all saying the thing everyone has been saying here, and he's been saying for 3 years.
So it's like Noam Chomsky said. He said the news is in there, in the New York, but you got to look at it sideways. The way they frame everything is incorrect, and you got to look at it this way and shake it, and then the news. You got to get to the news.
That's what the editor does.
They try to hide it, and they use words like pedal and pocket, and And he's making money off outrage.
This is neoliberals that love a free market that all of a sudden don't like peddling and pocketing.
And as they try to build up outrage over social media personalities, they condemn them for using outrage.
I'm literally I just have a Twitter. That's all I have left now. I've been banned from literally everything besides Twitter. I'm not a racist. I'm not a Nazi, any of this stuff. And this is all I have left. And they attack me this hard. Imagine if you had done what you were thinking of doing, running for president.
Imagine.
Look at RFK Jr. He's a full-blown Zionist, and they still attack him. And Donald Trump apparently offered him vice presidency. He rejected it. But imagine what they would have done to you had you done that. Because the only reason why RFK Jr. is not as he's very successful, but the only reason why he's not as successful as he could be is because of his positions on Israel. And imagine if you had done it.
They would have immediately taken my channel away. They would have immediately got me. Well, I'm pretty much kicked off Facebook as it is. They put a flag on every one of our videos. We're demonetized. We can't make money off it. They don't let us have any circulation on Facebook. My people who I've known for 30 years in Hollywood, because of Facebook, think I'm some kind of crazy conspiracy theorist because they would put tags on all our videos debunking the narrative around COVID. And we were right. Of course, we were right when it came to Syria. We were right when it came to Ukraine. We were right when it came to COVID. All things COVID. There was nothing I got wrong about COVID. Everything we were right about. We were right about masks. We were right about the origin of the virus. We were right about herd immunity, natural immunity, the transmission, contraction, the efficacy of the vaccine. We were right about everything. Fauci lying, Collins lying. We were right about all of it. But my friends who go on Facebook, because Facebook tags it with "this is misinformation," they think that I'm out. They think I am what the New York Times is trying to make you look like right now. Kind of some grifter who's out there lying and pushing buttons to try, instead of actually what I'm doing is debunking the bullshit establishment narrative, which is what you do also.
I think just like everyone no longer trusts the mainstream media in America, I think we're moving into an era where no one is going to trust those community notes and the fact check stuff, because I mean, that happened with you, and they never correct. They never remove the community notes. They never, when people are proven right. Just yesterday, I did an interview with Maria Zakharova, the Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman, and the interview occurred before the Moscow terrorist attack. In the interview, she said Zelensky's responsible for all these terrorist attacks in Russia, and it was published the day before the terrorist attack. And I got a community note on that interview yesterday, and the community note said, there's no evidence that Zelensky was behind the terrorist attack in Moscow. And I had to correct them. I subtweeted, and I'm like, no, she's referring to all the other terrorist attacks that Zelensky has already admitted to that have occurred in Russia. Like, no one believes this stuff anymore because the lies are they're so obvious.
They said remember the guy's daughter got blown up, that guy they called Putin's brain?
Yeah.
And the Ukraine blew up a cafe with a bunch of Russians in it. The regular media was talking about that openly, like it was a great thing Ukraine did.
So that's
New York Times too. They admitted. So
why are they pretending they don't do terror attacks now?
So, what do you think about that? Elon Musk still thinks community notes is worthwhile venture. Isn't that weird? Does he have to pretend that is? So that's his way to
yes.
kind of get advertisers to feel okay about advertising. Look, we have community notes. We correct disinformation.
Yeah, I don't know. People get upset when I talk about Elon Musk because I think it's easy to outrage over anybody. And obviously, he's done terrible things. He has views that are pretty terrible. But every once in a while, you see him post something that is so truthful and so based. And it's like, there's no way he actually believes all this Zionist stuff. Like the post he did about Iran surrounded by U.S. military bases. And he said that Israel is the best recruiter for Hamas. I think he secretly does probably agree with us on not everything, but maybe some things. But he has to play this character, acting like he cares about all this stuff to maintain the sanctity of his business.
I think you're correct.
Plus, he probably didn't know a lot of shit. The way I didn't know a lot of shit. I'm surprised people, the more successful they are, they don't know anything. Like, it's amazing to me. People I would think would know a bunch of stuff know nothing.
Well, I think him getting vaccine injured was a big turning point for him, probably.
Yeah.
And the fact that he's a defense contractor, I think he actually does know what's going on in Ukraine. And now he certainly knows what's going on in Gaza. And for him to tweet that. So I think he has, I don't want to say he's woke. I want to say he woke up.
But he still has to play the character.
But he has to play that game. That's what community notes are there. So he can point to advertisers saying, well, no, we don't censor them, but we do correct it. And
yeah,
that's all that is. And community notes are, I have a segment I forgot I haven't done on community notes, which I have ready to go, which this makes me want to do it, about how community notes have been taken over. Of course, they figured out how to get people. By the way, I got an invitation to become a community noter.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And they go, do you want to be a community noter? I go, fuck yeah. But I haven't heard anything else. And they just approved my Twitter account, so now I can get subscribers. Did you know that?
Oh, I'll subscribe to you. I didn't know. I didn't see that yet.
I have 1 subscriber so far, but I haven't put out any protected content because I didn't know I could do it yet. So now we're available to start picking up. I'm going to pocket $3 a month when I peddle my information. So anyway, well, do you want to stick around? I have one more segment I want to do about Ukraine, Russia. Sure. And I know you know a lot about that. So over to Steph.
Okay, so this was kind of interesting. Another world's view is POS. The New York Times doesn't need any extra money from AIPAC. The Sulzberger family that owns them are huge Zionists. Also, New York Times is an Operation Mockingbird substation for Joe Biden's CIA plans. And then I just texted Hinkle that article from the Times of Israel. It's titled "The Sulzberger's Family: A Complicated Jewish Legacy" at the New York Times. So that might give you a little bit of insight.
Oh, there you go. The people who own the New York Times are huge Zionists. That's why they did that hit piece on you.
And thank you so much, Another Worldview, for sending me that. I saw it in the chat, and I thought that was really interesting. Are you all set?
Yeah.
All right, back to Jimmy.
So Aaron Mate tweeted this out from the Washington Post. It says the concern among U.S. military planners is that the strikes do little. Here, let me read it. It goes, the Biden administration has told Ukraine to stop attacking Russia's oil refineries. Yes. One U.S. concern is that these strikes will raise energy prices during Biden's re-election campaign. Another, according to the Washington Post, is that the strikes do little to diminish Russia's war-fighting abilities and have resulted in a massive Russian counterattack on Ukraine's electricity grid that hurts Ukraine far more than the refinery attacks hurt Russia. Aaron says, this reminds me of when in September of 2022, the New York Times reported that the U.S. officials expressed concern that the most dangerous moments are yet to come. At that point, Russia had avoided escalating the war in ways that have at times baffled Western officials. The U.S. decision to use Ukraine to fight Russia rather than negotiate, as even Mark Milley proposed back then, ensured escalation, and now Ukraine is understandably desperate. So he tweeted out this Washington Post that says the concern among U.S. military planners is that the strikes do little to diminish Russia's warfighting abilities and have resulted in a massive Russian counterattack on Ukraine's electricity grid that hurts Ukraine far more than the refinery attacks. But I think it's the first thing more than anything, that they don't want oil prices to go up while Biden is trying to get reelected. So now you know a lot about this conflict, Jackson. Why don't you peddle some outrage?
I think the oil problem, Biden's biggest oil problems are in the Middle East right now. That's for sure. And with regard to whether Israel strikes Iran or not. But I think it's I would not be surprised if it's the latter point more so, but I don't know. I don't know the inner workings of how this impacts oil prices. So maybe it is the first. But one thing is for sure. You spoke about Aleksander Dugin, how they killed his daughter in Russia. The Ukrainians killed his daughter. In the New York Times article, they mention, I'm not trying to name drop, but that I had the dinner with Lavrov, and Dugin was also at that dinner. And I've never met people who are more committed and more serious and more emotionally moved to achieve a certain goal than the entire Russian leadership body when it comes to achieving their goals in Ukraine. Like, these people are dead serious. So when they see Ukraine doing these terrorist attacks or striking their oil refineries, and the New York Times is saying, or the Washington Post is saying, they're doing these massive responses on Ukrainian energy infrastructure. Yeah, because they're about it. They're very serious, and they're not going to stop until it's all over.
These are the kind of fuck ups we were told Donald Trump was going to do when he became president. That he was going to screw up the entire our foreign policy, get our neighbors, get our allies to turn on us, and all. This is exactly what has happened under Joe Biden. They've started this proxy war that hurts everybody except Russia.
They're better than ever.
They're better than ever.
Great job.
They blew up the Nord Stream pipeline, which is has now hurt Europe and Germany. Go ahead. You want to say something?
Talk about increasing energy prices. They're like, oh yeah, don't strike Russian oil. That's gonna. No, you guys blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. You sanctioned Russia. They put sea mines, naval mines, all in around where the shipping container boats are having to travel, and then they can't ship the oil and the natural gas. It's like they are the ones who caused these problems of energy prices skyrocketing, and now they're trying to act like it's Ukraine that's doing this. No, it was U.S. policy.
Of course, they don't want to take responsibility for doing it. Well, one of the reasons they blew up the Nord Stream pipeline because they wanted Western companies to be able to sell liquefied natural gas to Europe.
Liquid freedom, you mean?
But said liquid freedom, and it's happening at twice, 3 times, sometimes 4 times the price that they were paying Germany and Europe was paying before they blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. You got to pay for free. Freedom isn't free.
It costs a hefty fucking fee.
All right, I have. Let me. You got to go. Or do you want to stay on another story?
No. I'll say.
Okay, over to Steph.
All right. Sage Rager says they can't wrinkle the hinkle.
Wow.
They can't wrinkle the
hinkle. No, that really stinkled.
All right, Crazy Puppet Z. Thank you, Crazy Puppet. Let's see here. Correction, Jimmy. Now you have 2 Twitter subscribers. Drunken Scoundrel. Thank you for that, Drunken. You ready?
Drunken Scoundrel.
You can read
okay, great. This is the greatest publicity I've ever seen. Are you sure this wasn't written by a friend trying to elevate you? You've come so far, so fast. People are jelly. Susie Potato. Thank you, Susie. I think you'd really be open to Jonathan Peugeot's symbolic worldview, which is similar in many ways to Jungian archetypes, but from an Eastern Christian perspective. He's a deep Christian thinker. Kate Cotwas. Thank you,
He
Kate
is very
Cotwas,
interesting,
for that one.
but he is a Dracula Catholic. Keep that in mind.
Dracula Catholic.
What is a Dracula Catholic?
You know, the other kind, the Eastern Dracula Orthodox.
Oh, okay. Eastern Orthodox? Why do you call them Dracula?
Yeah.
Dracula Catholics.
Why do you call them that?
Romanian Catholics.
Oh, that's where Dracula's from?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was because they
people.
were walking the earth during the day. I was totally
Dracula doesn't walk the earth during the day.
No one is more hostile to us than our own government. Oh, Solidus. Thank you, Solidus. Let's see here. Yeah. Smear, not a profile at... smear. Not a profile at all, LOL. There are white BOI lefties jealous of Hinkle talking to... Houthis, laugh my ass off. I'm Iranian. This is all retarded. Don't be gullible. They know how media is perceived. Regarding Jimmy Dore's show, what is the feasibility of a few live dates, say in Russia or China, perhaps a panel show? Seamus, that's a good question.
I might be going to...
Go ahead.
I might be going to China later this year, and Jackson will be there, so maybe we will do a panel show. We'll see.
That'd be great.
I wouldn't mind.
Who else I'm inviting to China?
Who
is? Well, I mean, there's quite a few people, but I'm interviewing Alex Jones on Saturday, and I'm going to invite him.
Oh,
I I think if we can break his brain in the correct way on China, I think that'd just be the best thing ever.
I wonder if there's enough people who speak English in China that they would get the jokes. Everybody. They got the jokes in Europe, right?
There's enough people that get the jokes. I've been there. I mean, I don't know how now. It's probably a strange time to be an expat there, though. There's a bunch of Chinese.
There's a lot of tourists.
Okay, maybe it'll work.
I did a tour there. It worked pretty well. But
you did a comedy tour there?
But you're not allowed to talk about any Chinese politics whatsoever. That's the only rule they had. You talk about any other politics except Chinese.
What if I did? What if you did? What would they do?
You'd probably be thrown out.
Oh, okay. All right, over to Steph.
Okay. Thank you so much. The rock and roll hair is back. Jackson, just say thank you until the uncomfortable moment of feigned praise or even genuine praise passes. Seamus. All right, here we go. Thank you. Oh, no. Let's go here. Israel are using quad chopper in Nusrat refugee camp in North Gaza, playing a crying baby voice to trick Palestinians to lure them to help an infant in distress, only to massacre them in gunfire. Q81. Jimmy, Morning Joe has shirts for sale too, but they're designed by John Galliano.
Oh.
Not like your basic B5 below shirts. Love yas. Armine, thank you for all your hard work. Please cover the harass. Okay. Back to Jimmy.
So Senator Ron Wyden tweeted this out. They did another vote on this FISA Section 702 surveillance powers. After rejecting an amendment to bolster warrant requirements when spying involves U.S. persons. So now they're going to... Ron Wyden tweeted this out, April 12th. He said, the bill represents one of the most dramatic and terrifying expansions of government surveillance authority in history. I will do everything in my power to stop it from passing in the Senate. So that's good. That's guy's a real lefty. Lefties are supposed to be against this. That shows you the Democrats aren't real lefties. The lefties are right. The Democrats are authoritarians. I don't want to call them right wing because those terms don't mean anything anymore. So here, Edward Snowden says the NSA is just days. This is on April 15th. That's today at 10 a.m. The NSA is just days away from taking over the internet. And it's not on the front page of any newspaper because no one has noticed. Well, I thought they already had. Maybe that's why.
They don't own the internet already?
Well, here, I'm going to show you. So this woman, her name is Elizabeth Gotein. She's the co-director of the Liberty and National Security Program at the Brennan Center for Justice. And so she did a quick thread. I want to read some of it to you. She said, buried in the Section 702 reauthorization bill, it's called RISA, RSAA. It passed by the House on Friday. It's the biggest expansion of domestic surveillance since the Patriot Act. Senator Wyden calls this power terrifying, and he's right. I'll explain how this new power works. Under current law, the government can compel electronic communication service providers that have direct access to communications to assist the NSA in conducting Section 702 surveillance. So they can compel any company, meaning your cable company, your telephone company, anybody, if you use a public Wi-Fi at a coffee shop. So here. In practice, that means companies like Verizon and Google must turn over the communications of the targets of Section 702 surveillance. The targets must be foreigners overseas, although the communications can and do include communications with Americans. That's the problem. Through a seemingly innocuous change to the definition of electronic communication surveillance provider, an amendment offered by House Intel Committee leaders and passed by the House vastly expands the universe of entities that can be compelled to assist the NSA. If the bill becomes law, any company or individual that provides any service whatsoever may be forced to assist in NSA surveillance as long as they have access to equipment on which communications are transmitted or stored, such as routers, servers, cell towers, etc.
This is why China's so bad.
That's why China's so bad. But now
we got to compete with China.
that sweeps in an enormous range of U.S. businesses that provide Wi-Fi to their customers and therefore have access to equipment on which communications transit. Barbershops, laundromats, fitness centers, hardware stores, dentist offices. The list goes on and on. It also includes commercial landlords that rent out the office space where tens of millions of Americans go to work every day. Offices of journalists, lawyers, nonprofits, financial advisors, healthcare providers, and more. When the amendment was first unveiled, one of the FISA court, Amici, what is Amici? I'm going to guess a judge or something. One of the FISA court, Amici, took the highly unusual step of sounding a public alarm. Even the FISA court people are sounding the alarm. Civil liberties advocates noted that the provision would encompass hotels, libraries, and coffee shops. Can you look up Amici?
Mm-hmm.
The version of HPSCI leaders offered Friday, therefore, exempts hotels, library shops, and coffee shops, plus a handful of other establishments. But as the FISA court amicus promptly pointed out, the vast majority of U.S. businesses remain fair game. The amendment even extends to service providers who come into our homes. House cleaners, plumbers, people performing repairs, and IT service providers have access to laptops and routers inside our homes and could be forced to serve as surrogate spies, forcing people to spy on you. None of these people or businesses would be allowed to tell anyone about the assistance that they were compelled to provide to the government. They would be under a gag order, and they would face heavy penalties if they failed to comply with it. That's not even the worst part. Unlike Google and Verizon, most of these businesses and individuals lack the ability to isolate and turn over a target's communication, so they would be required to give the NSA access to the equipment itself, or to use techniques or devices presumably provided by the NSA to copy and turn over entire communication streams and or repositories of stored communications, which would inevitably include vast quantities of wholly domestic communications.
And Michi advises and assists courts on matters of law.
Okay. Thank you. The NSA having wholesale access to domestic communications on an unprecedented scale would then be on the honor system to pull out and retain only the communications of approved foreign targets. Let that sink in. Of course, they're not going to do that. The leaders deny that the administration has any intent to use the provision so broadly. Oh, why would we not trust the government? Supposedly, there is a single type of service provider that the government wants to rope in, but they didn't want anyone to know what that service provider was. So they hid the real goal by writing the amendment as broadly and as vaguely as possible. But no worries, Americans. The administration isn't actually going to use all the power it just persuaded the House of Representatives to give it. I cannot overstate how mind-blowingly irresponsible that is. I don't think any administration should be trusted with an Orwellian power like this one. But even if this administration doesn't plan to make full use of it, there are certain powers of government should not have in a democracy. There are certain powers a government should not have in a democracy. The ability to force ordinary businesses and individuals to serve as surrogate spies is one of them. Even if the targets are supposed to be foreigners, a power this sweeping will be abused. Let me bring in Jackson Hinkle. Jackson, have you heard about this? Are you up on this story? And what do you make of this?
You mean all the CIA's most basic of practices that they're now just trying to legally codify?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's what this one thing did.
This Elizabeth woman, she did a great job of breaking it down, and it is scary, but I pity the fools that don't understand or believe that the government hasn't already been doing this for literally decades, and this was all exposed in Vault 7. And, this is why Assange is in Belmarsh prison right now, rotting away, and they're trying to extradite him. They're just trying to legally codify it now, so that there's no chance that anyone could ever leak anything again, because now if someone wants to leak something, they'll be like, well, yeah, we already codified this into law, so what are you trying to expose? This is legal.
So they're trying to make unbelievable anti-constitutional criminality legal. That's what this is. And Mike Johnson's for it.
It's like
and
legalizing torture. Like we're always
That's right.
tortured, obviously.
We've always tortured,
but
but
we
not,
want to make it illegal so there's more of it.
they're normalizing it. Put it this way. They're making people feel like this is just a normal way to go.
I've watched people condemn China for this exact same thing. I think it was a Moon video about how China takes Discord and they can access the information whenever they want, and the people are obligated to comply, or else. That's the exact thing I've seen. A whole video about how bad China is for this very thing that they're trying to pass right now.
This is keeping secrets to the point where you're not only sleeping with the enemy, but the enemy's putting a pillow over your face while you sleep. This is so this idea. So I cannot help but go back to when Cornel West came on my show and called Donald Trump a fascist, and he didn't say the same thing about Joe Biden and the Democrat. And I had to explain to the Harvard professor who pretended to be a dummy, dumber than me, that fascism's already here, dummy.
He might be dumber than you.
He might be.
He's probably as dumb.
He's probably.
Oh, he for sure is.
Yeah, he's dumb.
for sure as dumb as me.
It's your fault for trusting him, to be honest. You should have seen through him immediately because of his hair alone.
I didn't see through him immediately, but I certainly when he pretended, or maybe he doesn't see it.
No, a life of letters lived at a distance. You ever hear that said about it? That's what that is. That's no real world expertise at jack shit other than being in a goddamn university. So they're just.
He's lived in an ivory tower his entire life, and he tries to call himself a gangster. That's the fucking joke of all jokes with Cornel West.
For the shittiest gang there is the establishment.
Yeah, he's the gangster for the establishment. So, yeah, I had to explain to him that fascism already came to America a long fucking time ago. So why don't you quit pretending that just one political party or one politician is a fascist, okay? Because it insults my intelligence and insults everybody's, and you're just doing the bidding of the Democratic Party and the establishment when you do that, because here it is. And this is the uniparty fascism. This isn't just Republicans. This isn't just Democrats. This is the establishment class. This is the donor class instructing people to, who really runs the country? The CIA. The CIA, and who do they really work for? They don't work for the president. They don't work for the citizens. The CIA works for a handful of billionaires and a cabal of corporations. That's exactly who they work for. Would you agree with that, Jackson?
100%. 100%. I think there's a lot of people on the right wing in America who are well-meaning, who say, big government is the problem and it's the government that's the source of all our problems. It's like, well, not necessarily. I mean, every government is going to have corruption and evil people, and they're going to do bad things, right? But a government isn't necessarily bad. The problem is in America, like you just said, our government is not run by the people. It's run by corporations and foreign government lobbying groups and the military-industrial complex.
We're a shell company. We got hollowed out by private equity. Company. And now everything, it's like we're like the Boeing plane. The door's fucking falling off. That's what we are now.
That's what we are. Okay. How many stories have we done? Let me do one more story. You can go, Jackson, if you need to go. You need to go?
Oh, I'm good. I'll stay.
I got one more. Let's do one more story.
Oh, okay. Here we go. You tell me when you're ready. Thank you for all your hard work. Please cover the harassment the Armenian community has been facing by the Zionists. They are trying to take their lands away from them. That was from Armene. Rosa, I can't help but wonder how a hero would the U.S. would have been if it had defended the people of Gaza the same way it defended Israel yesterday. Such a double standard, blindsided world.
The ADLs who kept the Armenian genocide, or they were a big part of lobbying to make sure that Armenian genocide was not recognized. The ADL, Abe Foxman, the original.
I did not know that.
Because he thought it would take away attention from the main Beyonce Holocaust, and he didn't want... I swear to God, look it up. Abe Foxman. That was his bit. I think later in life, he's like, oh, maybe it was a mistake. But, I mean, fuck you. Fuck the ADL, really.
What does it take to produce and present a show like yours? Seamus wants to know.
I would say
that Jimmy works probably pretty much 24/7. When he's reading an article, he's synthesizing it, and he's trying to figure out how he's going to use it the next day. So it's pretty much he lives and breathes his show, and it gives him joy. And sometimes not.
I mean, like this show.
Back to Jimmy.
This show, I start putting it together at 8 in the morning.
But you started gathering articles yesterday.
Yes, of course, the night before. But when I physically start to put it into a keynote program to get it ready for presentation, that starts at 8 in the morning, and I work right up until usually right around 2 o'clock. And then I'll go take a shower and get ready to come do the show at 3 o'clock. And then I do the show for 3 hours. So it takes a lot of time. You have to put things together. You have to... Anyway, get this. So this is from Dave DeCamp. Biden tells Netanyahu that the U.S. won't support an attack on Iran. President Biden told Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, how can you trust anybody who has Yahoo in their name, that the U.S. wouldn't join Israel in any offensive action against Iran. Multiple media outlets have reported. U.S. officials are touting Israel's defense of Iran's attack as a victory. And that's the message Biden conveyed to Netanyahu, a sign the U.S. doesn't want the situation to escalate.
So pretend you won this round and don't do anything because I'm running for office, right?
Iran fired. So, yeah, that's right. So Israel really came out far ahead in this exchange. It took out the IRGC. So when they went and bombed that embassy in Syria, Iran tried to respond, and Israel clearly demonstrated its military superiority, defeating this attack, particularly in coordinating with its partners. That's what a senior Biden administration told me. So they want to make it look like Israel won, even though they lost.
Well, they have to. That way, you can give Israel a way to not cause World War III, because we're not going to help with that, I hope.
Biden said he would convene with the other G7 leaders to coordinate a united diplomatic response to Iran's brazen attack. Israel, they claim they shot down 97% of the bombs. Some missiles got through and damaged the Nevada. So we talked about this with Scott Ritter. Iran won this. Iran showed that they were able to bomb Israel's most guarded military base in the world, the most guarded military base in the world.
With our stuff in it.
With the United States, they were able to bomb it. And they did it easily. Iran even gave them 72 hours notice that they were getting ready to bomb these bases, and they were able to bomb them. Did you know that?
No, I did not know
Yes,
that.
there it is.
With some of the lowest tech missiles that they have in their arsenal.
Yeah, they're old stuff.
The stuff that Russia didn't even want. Right? They tried to give Russia these missiles for the war in Ukraine, and Russia's like, no, we're good. We don't need those missiles. But so this was a big loss for. So that's why, and Joe Biden, I think he doesn't want Israel to go on the offensive.
Why would he want that?
It's not good for anybody.
They've been screwing him, they've been stabbing him in the back for how long now?
Right.
That the day MSNBC did that, that's when we saw
when MSNBC turned on Israel.
They're sick of Netanyahu. Yeah.
Tehran is also warning that it's going to launch an even bigger attack if Israel responds. If the Zionist regime or its supporters demonstrate reckless behavior, they will receive a decisive and much stronger response. And they can't. While the U.S. is signaling it seeks de-escalation and won't support, it's unclear what Israel will do next.
Why is it unclear since they depend on us? Why would that be unclear? That's the thing I can't believe.
That's what I can't believe either.
It seems like we could tell them to do whatever the hell, and they would have to do it.
And they would have to do it.
Yeah.
Israel has maybe 3 million people of military age. Iran has 40-some million people of military age.
And nice missiles, apparently, that can go right through your dumb iron dome.
And by the way, this whole war has been screwing Israel's economy.
They're not winning.
They're not winning.
Good.
This is bad. But there's a lot of people, most of the people in government, I think like Netanyahu. And so what you're saying, and Jackson, this is all true. So, I mean, if Joe Biden really wanted to stop Israel from escalating this, he could. Because if Israel escalates this and the United States doesn't help them, they're fucked.
Well, the problem is that we've sent them so many missiles and bombs and even, nukes. Although that's the dirty little secret for decades now that it doesn't really matter, because if Israel wants to, they can strike deep inside Iran, and that will provoke likely a regional war. And then the U.S. has already now said that they're going to defend Israel, which would draw them into the war. And Netanyahu, I don't think he really believes that he can defeat Hezbollah and Iran and Hamas
And the Houthis.
and the Houthis now too, and Syria, because they participated in these strikes. But he understands that to keep his political career and his legacy going at a time when the U.S. wants him out, they want someone who's going to be more liberal and tame in there. The only way he can do that is if he continues the war and gets more U.S. funding and weapons. And this is seemingly his only path to do that.
So is your guess he's going to do that? Scott Ritter was nervous that Netanyahu is a psychopath and he will do this.
Well, today they came out and they said, they said, well, we're considering options. It's like the extremes. They said, we're either going to strike deep inside Iran or we're going to do a cyber attack. So it sounds like, Israel may be holding this over the heads of Western states and might be saying, be careful with your ideas of not sending us more funding. They're using this as a tool of negotiation, maybe, as to what they could do versus the limited capability attack they could carry out.
Well,
I don't know.
Israeli War Cabinet Minister Benny Gantz vowed Israel would sounds like a boxing manager. Benny Gantz vowed Israel would respond, but signaled it wouldn't be imminent. He said that even the event is not over and that Israel should build a regional coalition and exact a price from Iran in a way and at a time that suits us.
So they backing down then?
So it sounds like they're backing down. The White House Security Council spokesman John Kirby said Biden also told Netanyahu that the United States is going to continue to help Israel defend itself, signaling the U.S. would intervene again to help Israel if it does choose to escalate the situation and comes under another attack. Israel's bombing of the Iranian consulate in Syria killed 13 people, including 7 members of the IRGC. Israel has a history of conducting covert attacks inside Iran and killing Iranians in Syria, but the bombing of the diplomatic facility marked a huge escalation. So I guess we still have to worry about World War III, is what you're saying, Jackson?
I mean, Israel's never had an attack like this in its history. For Iran to do this was a big statement. And obviously there was no casualties besides that one child who I believe was killed in Jordan. So Jordan sacrificed one of their own lives for Israeli lives. But I think the concerning thing is Israel went to the United Nations and tried to feign outrage, and they tried to take the diplomatic route. And they thought they'd win sympathy and support from world leaders, but literally no one condemned Iran. Russia didn't. China didn't. None of the potential individuals who could have condemned them did. They all said they support Iran. So I think Israel's probably upset by that. And who knows what we'll see happen here. If the previous 6 months are any indication, it would be that Netanyahu's going to do something crazy.
Well, they got to hide it from their own population too, right? Because he was saying, Scott Ritter, their punk ass population is going to flee right out of the country.
That's right.
Once it's obvious they have zero protection from the Iron Dome, which they have none.
Which they don't have. That Iron Dome is all fallacy.
Yeah, you should probably get out of Israel if you live in Israel. That's what I would say.
And they were saying that. I bet you a lot of people are going to flee Israel.
Iran has the U.S. We spend $1 trillion on our military. We still haven't developed the metal alloy needed for a hypersonic missile. Iran has hypersonic missiles that can travel to Tel Aviv in 400 seconds. There's
we don't have those kind of missiles.
We don't have that.
We do not have hypersonic missiles. North Korea just unveiled their first hypersonic missile this week, and the U.S. still does not have it.
How could that possibly be?
So the Tic Tac was not a thing we have. It's a UFO.
We don't have it. All those countries are obviously allies, so I'm sure they share the whatever sort of metal compound composite that you need to produce it. But the U.S. has failed to produce that.
That's big news. I didn't know that.
There's probably money in continuing to produce these hypersonic missiles and then be like, whoops, that one failed too. Let's make another one. There's probably money in that. It's all a money grab.
How do you know this?
It's that's the U.S. All these countries are proud of their hypersonic missiles, and the U.S. always says when they fail their hypersonic missile tests. So it's public information.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, Jackson, the Hair Hinkle. Everybody check him out on Twitter. It's the last place. Oh, and Rumble. He's on Rumble.
We're on Rumble. We're on Rumble.
So check him out on Rumble and Twitter. Go and give him. So he'd like to pocket 97% of $3 a month.
What are you going to bet all your outrage about?
Pocket some of your money.
A newspaper that put out a fake rape story. Using an Israeli family who did not consent to that.
That's right. Talk about trying to build on outrage. Anyway, that's the irony of that whole thing. Anyway, Jackson, thanks for coming on. Everybody check out Jackson on Twitter and Rumble.
Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.
Okay, bye-bye. All right,
you guys.
Over to Steph.
All right.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you hate shitty coffee? I, for one, really hate shitty coffee, which is why I'm excited to introduce to you a company that's revolting against shitty coffee, and it's called the 1775 Coffee Company. Now, I haven't had it yet because I only drink decaf. Steph has had it. Steph, how do you like it?
I really like it. You know what? I have a French press, and so I've been using my French press and totally enjoying it. It's delicious. It's smooth. It's smooth.
So 1775, the world awakened. In 1775, the world awakened to a new era. And now it's 1775 Coffee Company is bringing you a coffee that embodies that revolutionary spirit. Crafted with passion and precision, our beans are ethically and exclusively sourced from the finest coffee beans farms of Bolivia. Didn't know that. 1775 Coffee Company's farm-to-cup journey ensures the highest quality of authenticity and sustainability from start to finish. With each sip, your palate will recognize and appreciate the dedication and passion that goes into crafting this single-sourced brew. 1775 Coffee Company takes pride in offering customers a truly exceptional coffee experience with their premium coffee collection. But their dedication to this revolution extends beyond the realm of taste. Safeguarding freedom of speech is critical right now, which is why 1775 Coffee Company has joined forces with Rumble in defense of one of our most fundamental rights, freedom of speech. Coffee that's sure to awaken all your senses, including the sense of freedom. So choose 1775 Coffee by going to 1775coffee.com/litter. That's LITTER, and use the code LITTER for 10% off the checkout on your first order. 1775 Coffee, brewed to perfection, crafted with revolution.
Isn't it swell? The memes make themselves. They found a rabbi hole, tunnels and all. There's Jews in the walls. Isn't it bliss? The rabbinical grace, soiling the mattresses. Well, let me tell you. Shut it down. If I were Rabbi Shmuley and diddle-diddle-diddle-digga-digga-diddle-diddle-dum, all day long I'd diddle little bums. If I were a Shmuley man, I'd peddle all my dildos, dreidel dildos, selling dildos with my daughter and her mum. If I were a Jewish Shmuley man, I'd be digging with a dildo in my bum. I'd wear a grotesque nose and go grab some goyim right on the nipple with a pinch. A Shabbos lap dance brace for the youngest mensch.
Hey, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down there for more AM Joy and the rest of MSNBC. And click on any of the videos right here to watch the latest interviews and highlights. And you can get more videos from MSNBC for free every day with our newsletter. Just visit